This is the video where you learn everything that you need to know about the Insta360 Ace Pro. Insta360 devices often come with various innovative features, but I'm here to help you get a pretty complete understanding of how the camera works and how to get the most from it, including some cool hidden features that you might not know about. Most top-level action cameras can shoot up to 4K, but the Ace Pro shoots 8K. The main benefits of this resolution is being able to zoom in 2 times without losing any detail. Well, in fact, Insta360 recommends that you use 4K rather than 8K because 4K uses the sensor's 4-in-1 pixel binning, which will improve the image quality. If you're curious, then by all means experiment with 8K. Otherwise, stick to 4K. The physical sensor size is actually the same as the DJI Osmo Action 4's 10 megapixel sensor, but it's bigger than the GoPro Hero 12's 27 megapixel sensor. And the Ace Pro's 48 megapixel sensor allows the Ace Pro to take 48 megapixel photos, which is useful for reframing. So another great feature is the screen, which flips out. And this means that you can monitor the camera from the rear, the front, or from the top. The thing about action cameras is we're often mounting in places where it can be a bit awkward to see the screen. And this flip out screen just makes life a little bit easier, especially if you're using it for vlogging. The Insta360 Ace Pro can capture some pretty spectacular shots, and I'd say that it is also user-friendly. So I'm going to talk about the different modes and settings, when to use them, and how to get the most from them. And I'll also talk about the Insta360 app and how it works with the Ace Pro. The Ace Pro comes with a single battery, a clip mount, an adhesive mount, and a USB-C cable. If you are intending to use the camera a lot, I do recommend adding the GPS preview remote. You can strap it to your wrist and you can then monitor and control the camera from up to 20 meters away. As well, maybe consider buying extra batteries, because otherwise when your battery runs out, you're going to have to stop filming and wait for it to recharge. Now, the Ace Pro does not come with a protective carry case, so you might want to think about adding that as an extra if you're purchasing through the Insta360 website. On the front, we've got the camera, which is co-engineered with Leica. It also has a non-removable lens protector. We've got the mini screen, which is not actually a touch screen, but it just gives you the camera settings info. But if you want to monitor the camera from the front, like I say, you can just use the flip screen. On this side, we have the USB-C and the micro SD ports. Push using the grippy part to open. There's also the power button. Long press to power on the Ace Pro. On the opposite side, we have the battery cover. Push to open and then just use this little ribbon to remove or exchange the battery. And if you only have one battery, then you can just leave it in the camera for charging. So on the back, we've got the flip screen. There's 2 catches on each side and you just press in and hold to release the screen so that you can change the angle. On the bottom is where you fix the magnetic clip mount. And the magnetic is directional, so this clip needs to be placed the correct way round. So on the clip, you're going to see this little camera icon, and you want this to be facing forwards. Press in and hold the buttons on the side, and then just clip into place. Make sure the clips are secure before, doing anything where you're going to be shaking the camera, because if it's not firmly in place, it could fall off. Now on top, you're going to find the record button or shutter button if you're taking photos. Like all action cameras, the Ace Pro requires a micro SD card, which needs to be purchased separately. The Insta360 ones work well, and I've never actually had any issue with them. Take all the protective covers off and open the USB-C charging port hatch. Connect the included cable to charge the battery. When it's charging, you're going to see the red light, and when it's fully charged, this light is going to go off. Next to the USB-C port is the micro SD port. Press in the memory card with the text facing forwards, and again make sure it just clicks into place there. When you power on the camera for the first time, you're going to be prompted to use the Insta360 app to activate the camera. So go ahead, install that now, as if you don't already have it. Most likely, you're going to be prompted to update the firmware of the app. So I do recommend that you go ahead, do that before you're going to use the camera. And this should all be handled within the app, although your phone does need to be connected to the camera via Wi-Fi, which means that it's going to have to use your mobile data to download the firmware. Now you're ready to capture amazing images with your Ace Pro. So let's power on and try recording some video. So just long press the power button, and now you're going to see this blue light at the front flashing. And when it stops flashing, the camera is ready to record. So know that when you power on, you get this rising melody. And you get a falling melody when you power off. Which is good to remember, because maybe you're using your camera in a situation where you might not actually be able to see it, and then you can just use your ears to tell if the camera is on or off. Maybe it goes without saying, but you just press the record to start recording, press again to stop recording, and again take note of the different sounds it makes. Now when it is recording, the blue light on the front starts flashing red. If for some reason you want to switch off these lights and sounds, then just swipe down to open settings, look for the speaker and the alarm bell icons. Anything in this menu here that's switched on is blue, so just tap them to disable them. Now you can actually cancel a recording with the Ace Pro. Just long press on the record button and it will give you the option to cancel. And that means that no recording is going to be made at all. Thing is, the Ace Pro actually uses battery power to process a video as soon as you stop recording. So this might just save you some battery if the shot goes wrong. Then you can just cancel it and it's going to be discarded. You don't have to worry about deleting it. When you're recording, you will see this pause button. So you can just tap that to pause recording. And the camera is now in pause recording mode. So in this mode, the record button just acts as a pause unpause button. And you can just keep pausing and unpausing, and everything that you shoot is going to be stitched into one file. So to end the recording, instead of pressing the record button, you need to press the stop button on the screen. But that isn't the end of the story, because if you decide that you want to add more to a video clip, just open it in the gallery and you're going to see that there's this little record button in the bottom right corner. Tap that, you can start again from where you left off and keep adding more clips to this file. So now that we've recorded some video, how do we access it so we can use it? The most straightforward way is to use the USB cable and just connect it directly to your computer for editing. So on the touch screen, choose UDisc mode. You should now see the Ace Pro as if it was an external drive. So open it and then go into the DCIM folder, then Camera 01, and in there you will find the video files and the LRV files. And these are just actually preview files, so you can ignore those. The ones you want are the MP4 files. So the second way is to edit your Ace Pro media using the Insta360 app. You can either edit media directly from the Ace Pro, or you can download the media to your smartphone. And you're probably going to get a better experience if you do that. Open the file in the gallery, swipe along to the download button, which is the last button on the right. If you want to download more than one file, open the gallery in the app, tap the select button top right. Now select all the media that you want to transfer to your phone and use the download button at the bottom to start downloading. A unique feature of the Ace Pro is that you can leave it downloading while you do other things with your phone. And the third way to transfer files to a computer is just to remove the micro SD card from the camera, place it in the micro SD card reader, and then connect the reader to your computer. A good thing to remember is that the icons along the bottom of the screen are buttons, and the icons at the top are not. They're just indicators to give you information. So we have the remaining memory top left, we have the remaining battery level top right. Camera mode and settings are bottom left, Then we have the 2x zoom button, and next to that the field of view setting. Now if you want a clear screen with no icons on it, then just tap the screen. And to bring them back, you can just tap the screen again. Swipe down from the top to access settings. Swipe left from the side to open exposure controls. Swipe up to access frame rate and resolution plus other settings. And swipe right from the side to access the media gallery. Swipe up and down to view your captured media. If you press and hold on the screen during playback, the video is going to play at 2x speed. So if you've got a long clip, this is going to help you to speed through to find the best bits. Tap the camera mode and then swipe to change the mode. But you can actually also just simply swipe the screen left to right. The modes actually just loop around, so you can just keep swiping and eventually it's going to come back to the mode that you started on. And as well, the power button acts as a quick switch mode button. Short press the power button and then keep short pressing until you find the mode that you want. So by default, there are only 3 modes here, but you can actually customize this in the settings to add more modes. To do that, short press the power button and then tap the 3 dots to open up a list of modes. And you can see the 3 already selected because they have a blue circle with a number, and the number tells you how many modes that have been selected in total. So tap the circle to add a mode. So I'd suggest that you only add the modes that you use the most, because otherwise you're going to have to click through tons of modes each time, which then kind of defeats the purpose of quick switch, doesn't it? With the Insta360 Ace Pro, there isn't really one best combination of settings for video. As well, certain settings are only available at certain resolutions. So let's open up video settings and make sure it's in video mode and then swipe up. At 4K resolution, available frame rates go from 24 frames per second up to 120 frames per second. Higher frame rates are used mostly for the slow motion effect. And at 1080p, we can go up to 240 frames per second. At 8K resolution, we can only capture at 24 frames per second. At 4K and below resolution, we have 3 levels of stabilization. We've got low, standard, and high. At 8K resolution, we only have 1 level, which is standard. In the middle here, we have ratio settings. All resolutions can shoot in 16:9 aspect ratio. At 4K or lower resolution, we can use the 4:3 ratio, but at 8K resolution, we cannot shoot 4:3. And the 2.35:1 widescreen aspect ratio can only be used when shooting 8K. So 8K 24 frames per second has this widescreen option, and so in a way you can just think of it as like the movie setting. Now a lot of people hate cameras that over-sharpen the video, because over-sharp video, it just makes things look a little bit harsh and unnatural. But one reason cameras add this sharpening, especially mobile cameras, is because it can look better when we're watching video on our phones, on these tiny screens. Because when you're viewing video on such a small screen, sometimes this extra sharpness can help the details stand out better. But the thing is, if you're watching video on a bigger screen, maybe a computer or a TV, that sharpness can now start to look a little bit ugly. And for that reason, we might want to consider reducing sharpness. And the last firmware update makes the sharpness setting easier to access. So we just swipe left from the side and then tap the triangle button. And this is going to open up a menu for sharpness levels. So I'm actually going to set mine to medium. And if I need to sharpen the image later, I can do so easily. So I would say it's actually pretty safe to lower our sharpness levels, unless you know that your video is definitely only for mobile viewing. Because it's very easy to add sharpness later. You can even do it in your phone's gallery. If you just edit a video and a photo, there's usually a sharpness setting so that you can add a little bit of extra sharpness later. There's some other image settings that you might want to consider. Swipe down, tap the settings cog, scroll down to image settings. Now, if you find that artificial lights are flickering or strobing, you can set the anti-flicker to 50 Hz or 60 Hz. So Europe is 50 Hz and USA is 60 Hz. And if you live somewhere else, you just need to check the electricity supply of the country that you're filming in. It's going to either be 50 or 60 anyway. Video encoding is H.264 or H.265. And I tend to shoot all my videos in the newer H.265 because it actually creates smaller files. You might find that your editing system struggles with it, in which case you can try using H.264. Personally, I have bitrate set to high, and this controls the quality of your video. So obviously higher is better, but it does create bigger files. Now if you want smaller files and you're prepared to sacrifice quality, you can set this to standard. When you're switching modes, you will see a tab for presets at the top on the right. And these contain various combinations of settings that are ideal for certain activities. If you press the plus button, you can add your own custom settings. So if you have your camera set a certain way and you want to be able to quickly return to this setup, you can just save it as a preset here. You can actually start with one of the existing presets. For example, let's say I just tap on vlog, and this is going to create vlog 2. So I could rename it, or I can just keep it at vlog 2, it's fine. And now I can tap the edit button and edit these camera settings. So maybe I want the exact same settings, but just with 60 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second, because maybe I want that for shooting some slow motion B-roll for my vlog. Finally, tap save to create the new preset. Tap the field of view setting in the bottom right corner, and this is going to open up various modes depending on what other settings you have. There's Action, Ultra and D-Warp. So Action has the most fisheye distortion, Ultra is kind of somewhere in the middle, and D-Warp removes the lens distortion entirely. The fourth mode here is Horizon Lock, which will keep the horizon level while recording, but only for small movements. Now if you want 360 degree horizon lock, so that you can turn the camera a full 360 degrees and the horizon is going to stay level, you need to use the free frame mode. So switch to free frame and you're going to see the preview screen looks different. So you've got this frame in the middle and 4 frames on each side of the center frame. So this mode actually shoots the 4:3 video and allows you to export in any aspect ratio, as well as apply horizon lock later. So bottom right we have the free frame icon, and next to that is the field of view setting. Tap that and now you can see that you've got these 45 degree and 360 degree horizon lock options. When you import the free frame video into the Insta360 app or the Studio for desktop, the field of view setting now includes 45 degrees and 360 degrees horizon lock. But bear in mind this is only available in the 4:3 and the 16:9 aspect ratios. So if you switch to one of the other aspect ratios, the horizon lock options are no longer available. So next to where it says frame rate, you can see this HDR icon. At the moment it's grayed out, but if I move the settings to 4K and 30 frames per second, now it lights up. So when we have this HDR icon lit up, that means HDR is automatically applied to your video. HDR in this case is basically like dynamic tone mapping that we get in smartphones. What it does is try to even out the contrast between dark and light areas. So this is actually pretty useful in bright daylight situations where your sensor is challenged by high contrast between highlights and shadows. So for example, it helps to prevent a subject's face going too dark when backlit. And as well, when you're filming landscapes in daylight, it also helps to stop the sky blowing out or the land looking too dark. So things like clouds are going to appear with more clarity and more detail. And when this is enabled, you will see the HDR icon in the main screen as well. And that's going to be below the remaining memory. So since the latest firmware update, you can actually now disable active HDR. Swipe up to open settings, and next to the ratio setting is now an active HDR button. The Ace Pro has a 48 megapixel sensor, so unlike other action cameras, this allows the Ace Pro to digitally crop or zoom in on the frame without losing quality. So back in the preview window, you can tap the 2x zoom button, which is known as clarity zoom. And you can actually also do this by double tapping the screen. So what's the advantage of doing that? Well, the thing is that if you just shot 4K video and then you took it into your editing system and then you want to zoom in there, you will lose some quality. But if you do this using the clarity zoom in the camera, it allows you to crop in and it's going to keep the 4K resolution so you won't lose any quality. And you can actually zoom in while you're recording, and also since the firmware update, you can now use the clarity zoom in photo mode. But obviously you can't use it in this 48 megapixel photo mode, only in the 12 megapixel photo mode. Now by default, the Ace Pro is going to shoot 12 megapixel photos. And changing that is easy. You swipe to photo mode, and where you see 12 megapixel, just tap or swipe from the bottom and then switch to 48 megapixels. Now all the other photo settings are the same, whether you choose 48 megapixel or 12 megapixel photos. There's 3 quality settings for photos. We've got JPEG, which is the lowest quality. We've got Pure Shot, which is basically a high quality JPEG. And then we've got Pure Shot plus RAW, which creates RAW photos, and this is going to be the highest quality. But just be aware that this setting is also going to create much bigger files. There's 2 aspect ratios to choose from, 16:9 or 4:3. Now if you want to export photos with the Leica watermark, go into the app and toggle that option on in the settings. And you can also choose to add the shot on information too. So it's not exactly a watermark because the information is added to the bottom of the photo in a white box. So you can always crop it off if you don't like it, but you're going to get the photo details here, like ISO, aperture, and all that kind of stuff. And you can also swipe to switch to HDR mode for photos here. In video or photo mode, swipe left from the edge to open some color and exposure settings. The button with the 3 circles opens up a choice of filters, which allow you to add a certain look directly to your video. Each filter comes with a description that's going to give you an idea of when to use it. And this is also where you're going to find the flat profile, which reduces the saturation and the contrast. So it's a little bit like log. Personally, I don't think it really helps that much when you're using 8-bit video, but it might be useful for raw photos. Next to that, we have the EV setting, and this is going to allow you to brighten or to darken the image, but at the same time, keep exposure in auto mode. Below that is a metering mode. So you can choose to use the whole frame or meter just using faces as a reference. Next to that is the low light stabilization setting. And you might need this because stabilization can often struggle in low light, because it needs a fast shutter speed to work effectively. So if you turn this on, the Ace Pro is going to work to increase your shutter speed and to also remove those sort of blurry looking artifacts, or at least try to reduce it as much as possible. And finally, at the bottom, we have white balance. So you can just tap that to set the color temperature manually. So you can actually set manual exposure for both photos and videos. I tap the M button and now we've got controls for shutter speed and ISO. If you want to lock exposure for a video, you're going to need to use this mode and then set ISO and shutter manually. So when you're in manual mode, you're going to see the ISO and the shutter settings on the right side of the preview screen. So the Ace Pro has this feature which is called AI Highlights Assistant. And the idea is that the software in the camera is able to choose the best moments from a video clip and then edit them together for you. So in theory, this sounds pretty awesome, doesn't it? You know, do you have hours of footage for various events and holidays that you're going to edit one day? You know, when you have time? So is this the answer? You do need to enable it in the settings before you start recording. So just swipe down and you're going to see this AI button here. It's like a frame of film with the letters AI, and you can use this feature up to 60 frames per second in 4K. Enable it, and in the preview screen, you will see this new icon next to the battery level meter. Now, when you're filming, the camera will start choosing what it thinks are the best parts. You can open a clip shot with the AI assistant in the gallery, and you're going to see this flag symbol with a number. and the number is how many highlights the AI has found. You can also choose and edit highlights manually. And in practice, this kind of works like having an in-camera editor. Even if you don't use the AI assistant, you will still get this flag symbol when you view back your footage in the camera. Tap the flag and now you can start editing your footage. Swipe to where you want to start the clip. Press and hold on the flag until you want the clip to end. You can see that the selected part is highlighted in blue. And just keep going through the whole clip, highlighting sections of the video. And when you're done, tap the check mark. At the top, it now tells you how many highlights you've selected, and the camera is going to play through the clips in the sequence. At the bottom, you can see the length of each clip in the box. Tap each one to play that clip. To export the clips, tap the disk symbol top right. And you can choose to save each clip as an individual single file, or you can edit them all into one clip. So I wouldn't say it's the best way to edit video, but maybe it's useful if you're out filming and you're running out of storage on the camera, so you don't have any spare micro SDs. You could go through the takes, especially the long takes, and you could cut out all the stuff that you don't want. This could maybe also save you time editing later, because, often half the job of editing is finding the good stuff. And maybe you're sitting on a train, you've got nothing better to do. This feature allows you just to go through your footage and you can just weed out all the bad stuff. And normally, high levels of digital noise degrading the quality of our videos is kind of the curse of nighttime video creation. But Insta360 has put a 5 nanometer AI chip in the Ace Pro, which is gonna denoise the footage when you're in PureVideo mode. Swipe to the left in the middle of the screen and select the PureVideo icon. Now this mode is only available at 4K resolution and 30 frames per second or lower. And as well, you can only use the 16:9 aspect ratio, and you cannot use the AI assistant in PureVideo mode. So you'll also find that there's no option to switch off stabilization either, but there is actually stabilization applied. This is actually one of the hidden features that not too many people are aware of, and this setting is called power off charging. It doesn't sound that exciting, does it? But if you intend to use the Ace Pro as a dashcam, then this setting is for you. There's 3 settings, and these settings determine what your Ace Pro does as soon as you start charging it. There we've got charge only, charge and power on, or charge and record. If you choose the last setting, then mount your Ace Pro in the car, plugged into your power source, and as soon as you start your car, the Ace Pro is going to switch on and then it's going to start recording automatically. But wait, there's actually more, because when you select charge and record, you get more settings appearing below. If you want it to stop recording, when you stop the power, toggle this on. Below, shooting mode is set to loop recording, and you can set the time that it records that loop for. And this means that you can keep recording without filling up your memory, but if something happens, you just have to stop the camera. Below there are other settings, which are your regular video settings. So next up are 2 pretty useful features that you should probably know about: quick capture and pre-recording. When you have quick capture enabled, you can record video without having to power on the camera first. Press the record button, the camera powers on, and then it starts recording. And when you stop recording, the camera automatically powers off unless you stop it. To enable this, swipe down and tap the icon with the rocket. Now switch off the camera. Press record and the camera will automatically power on and start recording. And it's only going to record video, so you can't actually take photos this way. Below the quick capture button, we have the pre-recording button. But what does this pre-recording feature do? So we've got this description here, but I don't think it actually explains the feature that well. Basically, tap here, and now you get this option to start recording. Tap that, and at the bottom, you can see that this counter starts ticking as if you're recording video. And if we watch it, we can see that once it gets to 15 seconds, it stops. So what's it actually doing? In fact, it hasn't stopped. It's now recording video continuously, but it's discarding everything older than 15 seconds. And now when I press the record button, you can see that the counter goes red and it starts counting beyond 15 seconds. And so what this feature does is to make sure that you have this 15 seconds recorded before you hit the record button. And this is basically going to save you from missing any kind of action. So let's just say you're filming a friend playing basketball and you want to capture that moment when he scores. So start this pre-recording and then follow the action. But as soon as the ball lands in the basket, then you need to press the record button. So now you're going to get everything that you record plus the 15 seconds before you press the record button. So it just helps you to capture those magic moments without having the camera constantly running. The Ace Pro has inbuilt mics and there are settings to control how they're used. Above the settings cog is a button for the audio controls. You can choose stereo without wind reduction. Then you've got stereo with wind reduction, and finally you can choose to record audio from a single direction. So the last setting, it's probably best if you're recording someone talking. When you play back a video, there's an audio level setting. On the left, you find this speaker symbol. Just tap that and open up a level for video playback. So there's actually different ways to record audio with an external mic. I haven't tested it myself, but I have seen others pair the Ace Pro to Bluetooth mics. For example, the DJI Mic 2. To add a Bluetooth mic, swipe down and find the earbuds icon. Tap that and the Ace Pro is going to search for Bluetooth devices. But if you want to connect a mic with a 3.5mm jack, you will need this mic adapter. And this also allows you to connect your power supply at the same time as the mic. So here's how to use it. First, you need to remove the hatch completely and then plug in the adapter until it clicks into place. When you plug the mic in, you should get a little microphone icon beside the battery level meter. And as well, you should see an audio level meter at the top. So if you don't see the audio level bouncing around, then it isn't connected properly. You can actually adjust the level of the external mic. Go into settings, general, and then scroll down until you get to the external mic gain. So you can add up to 6 dB, or you can go all the way down to minus 18 dB. So you might have seen people talking about the AI warp feature, which gives your video a kind of animated look and theme using the generative AI. And actually you can use AI warp with video from any Insta360 devices. In the Insta360 app, go to Shot Lab and choose the AI warp option. Just tap use this theme, select a number of video clips and then choose which portion of the clip to apply the effect to. The app is going to upload the clips and then start applying the effect, and it's going to take several minutes. So top right of the app, you're going to see this clock symbol, which indicates the AI warp clip is being worked on. And you'll get a notification when it's finished. And now you can go in and you can change the speed of the clip. So maybe you want to slow it down, it kind of creates a sort of more dramatic feel. And also you can change the music. And then finally, export the clip using the export button in the top right corner. And just bear in mind that AI Warp has a maximum resolution of 1080p export. Timeshift is Insta360's name for hyperlapse, which is basically a time lapse, but where the camera moves. For example, walking, running, cycling, and so on. In the preview screen, you now get a crosshair and the running figure symbol bottom left. When you press record, at the bottom, you're going to see 2 time counters with an arrow. The left counter is the real time that you've been recording. The right counter is the length of the video that's going to be produced at the end. There's also a button in the left corner, which you can use to switch from auto, which is speeded up time, and normal time. Then when you watch this back in the camera, you're going to see it slowing down and speeding up at the moments where you press this button. Any videos that you recorded using Timeshift is going to have this running figure icon when you view them in the gallery. The time-lapse is speeded up time with a stationary camera, so it's best to mount on a tripod for this shot. In the bottom left of the screen, you can tap to open settings. When you change the interval, you get suggestions in the top left for what type of subject this interval setting would be good for. So in both Timeshift and Timelapse, you get the option to switch stabilization on or off. Loop recording is useful if you want to use the Ace Pro as maybe a body cam or a dash cam, or basically any situation where you want to capture important moments but you don't really know when they're going to happen. And you can loop recording up to 30 minutes. So whatever time you set here, this is going to be the maximum time recorded, and you're only going to capture that many minutes or less. If you set it to 3 minutes, you're only ever going to capture a maximum of 3 minutes of video, and it will be the last 3 minutes that you recorded. Starlapse takes photos with a very slow shutter speed, and it allows you to capture night skies. So the camera's got to be in a fixed position on a tripod. You can see the manual exposure settings on the right. Swipe to the left to open up these settings so that you can adjust them. There are 3 types of Starlapse that you can capture: Starlapse video, Starlapse streaks video, and a Starlapse streaks photo. The regular Starlapse video is a time lapse with a slow shutter to capture more light, and when you play it back, the stars move across the sky. But with streaks, it adds all the images together to create these streaks. The interval mode is basically the same as the time-lapse mode, but instead of creating a video, it creates photos. And it will take photos at whatever interval you set. So you can go up to 120 seconds or 2 minutes between each photo. And there's a couple of other modes available. So we've got slow motion and burst mode for photos, but I think they're pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go into them here. Now, if you're going to use your Ace Pro in a situation where you can't see or access the touchscreen, then you can always use the app on your phone. The Insta360 app is a pretty powerful tool as a remote, which gives you almost total control over the camera, and as well for editing videos later. So the app allows you to monitor the camera view, and it allows you to change settings, and also you can capture photos and videos. You can edit clips, you can apply effects, you can reframe, you can change the field of view, and much more. And you'll also find effects which can be applied, for example, the AI warp effect. But what if you're in a situation where you're using your hands, for example, cycling or jogging? Then you should really consider adding the Insta360 GPS preview remote to your setup. So this device, it comes with a touchscreen, and you can adjust settings and you can check framing, and it's going to work up to a distance of 20 meters. There's also a strap that comes with it, so that you can use it wristwatch style. The remote allows you to record accurate GPS data, which you can then overlay onto your footage. Apart from the touchscreen, on the top we have the power button and the shutter record button. So when you power on the GPS remote, it's automatically going to start searching, and it's basically looking for a device to connect to using Bluetooth. So swipe down on the Ace Pro screen, navigate to the second screen, and then look for the icon that looks like a remote control, and then just enable this by tapping it. So now the Ace Pro searches for Bluetooth devices to connect to. When you see the GPS preview remote pop up here, just tap to connect. And now you're going to see this icon of a remote in the preview screen of the Ace Pro to indicate that it's connected. The GPS remote can be used to turn on the Ace Pro, which is essential if it's going to be placed somewhere where you can't reach it. So go into general settings and enable Bluetooth wake up. And now when you power on the GPS remote, it's going to power on the Ace Pro, and then it will connect to it automatically. If you now press and hold down the GPS remote power button, you get the option to turn off camera, turn off remote, or turn off both. At the top of the screen, we have the GPS signal strength. Tap the camera button to access Ace Pro controls and screen. Swipe left to access the dashboard. Swipe again for the compass, and again to get to settings. Now, if you have an Apple Watch, I don't, so I can't show you here, but you'll be happy to know that the Ace Pro can actually connect to it. And as well, if you have Garmin GPS devices, they are also compatible. A final GPS tip: it's recommended to connect the Ace Pro to the Insta360 app before shooting, so the camera can retrieve an accurate timecode from your phone, and the GPS should match the video more accurately. The one quality of cinematic video is motion blur, and this is going to help to make motion in the video look smoother. But the problem is, action camera stability relies on fast shutter speed, which in turn removes motion blur. So that's why adding ND filters to slow your shutter just kind of messes up the stabilization. So what can we do? Well, the answer is to add motion blur afterwards. And this can now be done in both the Insta360 app and the studio software. So the setting is called Motion ND, and you'll find it by opening a video, pausing it to edit, and then swiping the menu until you find a running figure. Tap this and use the sliders to customize the look. But you're actually only going to see what it looks like after you export the video. So you need to experiment a little bit, just keep testing it and see what comes out best. So I do think that this effect really makes the difference to Timeshift videos. And as I say, you will also find this setting in the desktop studio software. The Ace Pro can also be controlled by gestures. Swipe down and find the hand icon. Tap and then toggle on gesture control. 2 items appear below which tell you the gesture that you need to make. To start or stop video recording, hold up the palm of your hand. To take a photo, use the fingers in a V shape, and just using the sign will tell the camera whether to take a photo or a video, so you don't need to switch modes. And for gesture control to work, the Ace Pro needs to see a full head, in the frame. So if you want to slow down the speed at which your battery is draining, you can actually turn down the brightness of the screen, and this will save a little bit of battery. So swipe down, tap the sun symbol, and use the slider. And if you adjust this to the lowest possible setting, you're going to save the most energy. But if you're using manual exposure, then you might want to keep the screen at 100%. Otherwise, you might think the image is darker than it actually is, and then you end up overexposing it. Locking orientation will stop the camera switching between horizontal and vertical, so just swipe down and tap the padlock with the circular arrow around it. And this other padlock without the arrow, this one just locks the screen. So that means that no buttons can be pressed until you swipe up on the screen. So you can actually use your voice to activate recording or take a photo, and there's actually other commands as well. So just swipe down, tap the icon with the speaking head and enable voice control. And then just see below for the list of commands. Now if you want the rule of thirds grid on the screen, tap the noughts and crosses symbol. Time capture allows you to schedule your camera to capture media at a set time. Just tap the alarm clock icon, toggle it on, and then set the time. And you can also tell it to repeat this at the same time every day.